President.
The senator from Oklahoma.
Thank you. I've been listening in my office for the last several hours to the debate. And I think there's one thing that really hadn't been brought out in the debate. When Washington says it's going to cut spending, it's untruthful with the American public. Because both the Boehner bill and the Reid bill increase discretionary spending over the next 10 years by one of them $830 billion and the other $832 billion. How is it that we can, with a straight face in this body, talk about a cut when in fact we're going to, and CBO says we're going to actually increase the spending in the discretionary accounts over the next 10 years, nearly $1 trillion. And you've heard the debate in the House, in the Senate, of a spending cut. And of course, that goes to what the heart of the problem is in our country, is words get twisted around to the advantage of the politicians, but to the disadvantage of the American citizens. We are in trouble financially. Most people agree with that. We have programs that are in difficult straits. Matter of fact, they're broke. They're not just in difficult straits. Here's the ones that are broke. Medicare Part A Trust Fund, worst case scenario this year, 2016. That's the fund that solves and pays for hospitalizations for our seniors. Now, we've heard a lot of statements said about Medicare. The average Medicare recipient paid $130,000 into Medicare. The average Medicare recipient takes $350,000 out. How long do you think that can continue? How long can we continue to tell seniors that we can continue a program based on its utilization rates, based on its reimbursement rates, based on the tax rates, that has a $220,000 difference between what goes out in benefits versus what comes in? It's broke. Medicaid's broke. The reason it's broke because the states are broke trying to take care of it. We mandate what they must do, and yet the states are choking on Medicaid. And we're choking on matching the amount of dollars. And under the Affordable Care Act, it is now estimated 25 million more people will go into Medicaid. So it's broke. The census, it was broke before it started. It cost twice what it did 10 years ago. $8 billion more than what it was estimated. Fannie and Freddie, we know they're broke. They're $190 billion that you have now committed for to pay to get them out of the hock. Congress created that, $190 billion. And that is where we are today. It's going to be $300 or $400 billion that we have to pay. We will be required to pay. Citizens of this country, Social Security, people say it's not broke. We have $2.5 trillion worth of IOUs. Well, the fact is that money's gone. Congress stole it, spent it on other things, and now we lack the ability to go into international financial markets to borrow that money to put that trust fund whole. So why do we need to reform Social Security? So we can make sure it's there in the future. What we do know is in 2032 now, according to the trustees, that everybody on Social Security will only get 77% of what they're promised, and every year after that it will decline. So that when my kids are on Social Security, they will get about 40% of what the average Social Security recipient gets now. And we know we can fix it, and we know we can fix it and make it sustainable forever. But we won't do that because that's politically difficult. The U.S. Post Office is bleeding every day, yet we haven't fixed it. We're going to do a gimmick to buy it some time. But the fact is we've set it up under a system when they negotiate labor contracts under the arbitration system, they can't consider the financial health of the post office. That'd be like paying somebody to mow your grass and saying they'll set the price on it and you can't negotiate what the price is. And yet they're going to lose $8 to $10 billion this year and more every year going forward. And yet we've not fixed it, not done anything. Cash for clunkers. Absolute, when you look at the dollars and the homebuyer program, new homebuyer program, they actually had a negative effect on the economy. That's what the studies show now. So we blew through all that money. The Highway Trust Fund, what is used to build highways and roads and bridges in our country, is broke. We're looking for $13 billion to try to make it whole. And all we did was transfer the last 3 years to that. Rather than reform it, we didn't do anything about it. The new government-run health care programs. Here's what we know is the new studies show that over half of the employers in this country will drop their insurance for the people who presently have insurance at work. Hundreds of billions of dollars of additional taxpayer money are going to be required to subsidize the exchanges that those people are going to go into. Because the penalty for dropping somebody's insurance is economically too low to keep employers from doing that. So we have all these programs that are broke, and we have a discussion about the debt ceiling, but we're not talking about what the real problem is this government is twice the size it was 10 years ago. Twice as big. And it'd be great if all of it was constitutional. It'd be great if it was all effective. It'd be great if it was all efficient. And it would be great if we could afford it. But the fact is we're where we are today with $1.6 trillion deficits because we can't afford the government we have. And so we've not concentrated on the very areas where we can find mutual agreement. We've had 3 bipartisan bills in here where we've cut money, significant money, $1 billion here, $5 billion here, $7 billion here, $3 billion here, go through the Senate with vast majority votes, only to go nowhere because the allowance for the debate on the underlying bills was stopped. Bills were pulled. So what do we do? Well, the first thing we do is we look at what the problems are. What are the problems? We have 100 different programs with 100 sets of bureaucracies for surface transportation alone. Why do we do that? Why haven't we fixed it? That's a question the American people ought to be asking. We have 82 programs to improve the quality of our teachers run by the federal government across 7 different agencies. Only one of them is the Department of Education. Why are we doing that? Where's the assessment of how well they work? Where's the metrics to say we should be spending this money in this way because we're getting return? Not one of them has a metric on it. Not one of them's ever been measured of whether or not it's effective. We have 88 economic development programs in 4 agencies for which we spend $6.8 billion. And we have another 100 economic development programs in 6 other agencies for which we spend another $4 billion. And not one of them's ever been measured to see, does it improve economic activity? And if, in fact, it does, why do we have 188 separate agencies to stimulate economic development? I mean, this isn't complicated stuff. It's common sense. Every American, other than the Congress, would fix that. We have 56 programs to teach financial literacy to the American people. First of all, I'd question whether or not we ought to be teaching anybody financial literacy as a government when we run so poorly. But if, in fact, we do, why do we have 56? And, oh, by the way, not one of them's ever been measured to see if it effectively teaches somebody financial literacy. We have 47 job training programs, cost $18 billion a year, 9 different agencies, 9 different sets of bureaucracies, and all of them but 3 overlap with the other. That's according to the Government Accountability Office. Why? Why would we do that? We have 18 programs for food for the hungry. That's something we all want to be involved in. 18? Why 18 sets of bureaucracies? How well are they working? Are they effective? Could we do them better? The question hadn't even been asked by Congress. We have homeless programs for both prevention and assistance, 6 different agencies. So you have 20 different sets of bureaucracies that are designed to do the same thing. Disaster response and preparedness inside FEMA alone. Inside FEMA alone, we have 17 different programs. Inside that one agency, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security. I ask the question, why? Why hasn't it been a priority for us to work on those? So what would you do?
Would the Senator be willing to yield for a question? Or
I'd be happy to yield to the Senator.
Engage in a colloquy? Mr. President, it may surprise the Senator. I hope not. I don't think so, but it might surprise some people listening to this.